that will tell us a little bit about how he feels, how he thinks, and maybe he'll tell us a few stories, and Madam will chip in. Sometimes when you ask men, simple things, and you want them to come out, they sort of don't give you a clear-cut answer, and then the ladies chip in and they say, well, this is what actually happened. So that's why we need Madam here.
Corrective measures.
I'm going to take you back to the day that you set foot in India. It's not food, it's foot.
I know.
And what were you feeling, and what went through your mind and heart?
This is the right question for Vasanthi.
Pass on all the questions to me like that.
Some he won't be able to.
Well, we landed in Chennai in 1970, right?
Landed in Madras.
That's right. And Vinay, I grew up in Pune, a beautiful weather place, beautiful city. At least at that time it was a beautiful place. Then we were 7 years in United States, and this man brought me in the month of June, hot June, in Madras. Okay. Wearing hot color also. So the feelings were, I was just, three of us landed. But myself and Sheshu, he was only a year and a half. So it took me some time to adjust to the weather and to my in-laws, whom I was meeting for the first time. So my answer is not the same as what you expect from him.
I'm sure he's going to tell us something else,
In-laws are very good.
Yes.
You meant your in-laws?
Pardon?
You meant your in-laws or her in-laws?
I had met my mother already in America.
But you haven't yet answered the question. What went through your mind and heart, actually? That's the key answer that I want, actually.
I think if you ask Vasanthi, she would say that Badri was very happy that he is back in Madras. And it was a hot afternoon, 1 o'clock, and we were not seen. This is Mirage. You heard about Mirage?
Yes.
So when we got off the aircraft, there was not even a bus to take us back to the main terminus. We had to walk all the way. So Sheshu in one hand and whatever little luggage we had in the other hand, we walked on the tarmac.
Whereas, you may like to know this, that we left United States of America not staying a day more than our fellowships program. 1 o'clock he finished his Diplomat of Ophthalmology exam YOC in San Francisco. 4 o'clock we left the country.
Thank you for clapping for my confidence.
I mean, for anyone who's been to the United States, these words that they left on the day that he finished his fellowship, it has an amazing meaning, and it would require immense courage to do that, actually. Okay, and now I'm going to take you through a little more of your journey when you reached India, and what personal difficulties did you go through on reaching? That's personal difficulties that you went through and personal difficulties that you went through.
So I think when you say difficulties, everybody cries when they have a difficulty. You ask the right person. We had some problem with the customs. When you come into the country, you declare what you have brought, and you have to tell them what's the value of the material which you brought. And what we brought was practically nothing. And there was one IBM typewriter. So that was stuck with the customs. And they said, you show me how you would change the ribbon of the typewriter. I've never changed the ribbon, so I didn't know what exactly to do. You don't know how to do it, but you still say it belongs to you. How come? I couldn't say that my secretary was changing the typing because...
More than that, I think he had the indirect ophthalmoscope, which was refurbished. That was gift from Dr. Scapins himself. And the customs officer wanted to know the value of it. He had not bought it. It was a gift. So he couldn't tell, and so the customs held all our equipment and whatever small little things we had brought for almost for 10 months. And this is where his brother was, eldest brother was very, very kind. First of all, when he had built the house, he left one apartment for us to stay. So no rent. For 10 months, we didn't pay a penny to him. And the other thing is, we would visit the Madras port morning, evening as such. And he was working in Enfield, India. On his way back, he would stop by, be with us, console us, be patient. Only because of him, we stayed back.
Truly amazing, and I can genuinely understand what happened at the customs actually. Okay, I'm going to start with something that I'm sure will excite all of us as ophthalmologists. What did you start your practice with? What instruments did you have when you began?
Well, I had brought with me the slit lamp or Harkstride, and that is a good instrument. We had the ones which was gifted by Dr. Capens, indirect osmoscope, here 2 numbers, and that was very helpful. And we had all the surgical instruments and equipment, which was not much difficulty. Dr. Capens also gave me a diathermy machine. So, detachment surgery was possible.
So that's actually brilliant to have a Harkstride slit lamp when you start your practice. I think that is truly amazing actually.
Can I ask a question, sir? Do you have your wedding movie which you showed 16 mm?
Wedding?
The movie of the wedding.
Yes, we do have. I suppose you're referring to the wedding to Vasanthi. Yes. All right.
I don't know how many of you have seen that. So I have seen it.
After we got married to ophthalmology.
that view we will have from her actually.
Madam, when did you see it again?
You didn't ask me about anything about instruments. Maybe I
Well,
was his first
Tell
patient
me,
there.
please tell me.
First patient there, He needed patients also to start the practice.
I mean, that's another interesting angle. How many patients did you see in your first month of practice actually?
I would say that I have been most fortunate in coming back and having a problem with the customs and setting up a practice in HM Hospital and having also association at voluntary health services. As a matter of fact, in voluntary health services, Mary was my student. Chandran also came along. And Surendran may recall how maybe about 8 or 9 of us would get into an ambassador and go home. We had a good time. We had a very good time. I think God has been extremely kind to us. There was no problem. I would say maybe I would see 5-6 patients a day at the beginning.
Okay, I think that, that takes us back to our days of starting practice, that, we all go through that time when, you're just wishing and hoping that, you have more patients actually. So that's brilliant, where you begin and where you can end up. This another, I'm sure that the excitement of wanting to.
Now about the practice at HM Hospital, we can never ever forget MS Amma, MS Sublakshmi Amma. The HM Hospital was celebrating their first anniversary, and they happened to be there, and MS Amma was Dr. Badri's patient. And, I'm not that good in Tamil even now, but she held my hand and she said to me that I can still feel the touch of her hand, and she told me, ask doctor to go any number of times outside India, but he must come back and practice here. It's something you can never forget her.
Yes, that is one of the moments which I still remember, and perhaps one of the reasons also why we decided not to go back to America. We had ideas of going back in the middle.
When anyone who wants to develop an institute, one of the major issues in our country is, where are you going to get the land from? And then there are other problems that need to be sorted out. But the biggest problem is land in our country. And, I'd like to know how did you feel when you were told that you have this huge piece of land right in the center of the city, And what did you think at that time, actually?
Vinay, before that, probably, sir, you should tell when you shifted to Vijaya Hospital and what was your operating hours. I remember visiting you that time in school, and Madam used to tell about how you used to be meticulous in arranging instruments at what time in the morning.
The practice in HM Hospital I started in 1971, I suppose, and we had Dr. P.C. Reddy as my companion, as my friend. And so I had a good practice even to begin with, because he had come a few months earlier and he had known all the VIPs and all the important persons, the government servants, etc., etc. And whenever they had an eye problem, he used to refer the patients to me. So I would say that I have no complaints about the practice in the beginning and how many numbers he had.
Actually, he used to walk home from HM Hospital to Habibullah Road because we had no car, and there was no bus running at 11 o'clock at night. Is it heard? Yeah.
So you know why I am so strong. I felt perhaps the space in HM Hospital was not sufficient. As you rightly guessed, that the practice is growing, and so we needed a little more space. And Dr. K.C. Reddy, another name which many of you might know, he is a surgeon. He was Mr. Nagireddy's son-in-law. So Nagireddy, Mr. Nagireddy, a very well-known, very famous film producer, constructed a hospital for his son-in-law. So he was just about 2 years junior to me in the college, so I had known him. He said, why don't you come and start your ophthalmology department here? So there I got a space there. So we worked in the voluntary health services for about 6.5 years, and in Vijaya Hospital maybe for about 6 years again.
Time you start the day?
Time we started the day, I don't know, I don't remember. But let me tell you how we got the land. That's a very interesting piece of the story. We were looking for an alternate space because practice was good and too many people were there, and so we needed to have a little more space, number one. And we saw many places, including the present Park Sheraton. Sankara Nethralaya would have come in Park Sheraton. And they asked only for 17 crores at that time. And all that I had was less than 1,000 rupees in my hand. So we had to leave Park Sheraton, but settle with another rented place. And so that is how we got into Dr. P.C. Reddy's place. But we were hunting, going around and around and seeing where any places are available. And we realized that this particular area was available and had been approached by Mr. Nagireddy, Mr. Mohan Rao, and many others in the board of Medical Research Foundation. They had applied for, they wanted to buy this property. So one afternoon I just went and met the owner of the house, the plot, who was a Parsi gentleman who was living with his wife, who was English, and told him that this is what I want to do. I want to have a piece of land. So, though others have bid for nearly about 14 crores, 15 crores, this property.
Bought it for 8 lakhs.
Exactly. So he was quite happy to hear that an eye hospital will come here. And he reduced the amount from 14 to 8, and everything went through very quickly without difficulty. And so we started construction sometime in September, October of 1978, and 79, January, February, we were settled here.
Actually,
Dr.
I
Mary
remember
also can contribute something here. Dr. Chandran, some of these stories might be.
78, sir.
Uh,
Madam, I just want to tell that I remember Madam telling in Vijay Hospital you should get up at 4:30 in the morning. And
That's
the
what
sister,
you are asking.
I forgot her name.
Then you should talk about Shrenik Shah.
Yes.
No.
5:45 to 9 you stopped.
Sorry, tell us. Okay.
Shrenik, we met him in Bhopal conference, All India Ophthalmologist meeting. Do we have time for my yakking?
That if these two young doctors, I'm going to make them
Control the
listen
time.
to them
Okay.
this time, okay?
So, Bhopal conference, he came and met Badri, and he said he would like to come and have training in vitreoretinal. Not vitreoretinal, at that time I don't think much of was talked about vitreous, retinal surgery as such. And when he had written to Badri, we did not know whether it's a male or a female. His name is Shrenik, and we had never heard that name, you know. And when he met, he said he wanted to come just for a month. He said, no, in a month you cannot learn anything about retina. You have to come here, at least spend a year. I have spent about a year and a half at Boston, Mass Eye and Ear Infirmary. So he had joined, and when he came to visit us at home, Badri was just asking about his family, and he said, next week is my wedding anniversary. Badri said, what are you doing here alone? You better get your wife here. So she had also joined, and believe it or not, he would come whenever Badri had asked him to come for surgery, and she would wait for him at Vijay Hospital. He had a scooter to take her back home as such. So it was something, some of them have worked very, very long hours. We appreciated, and he is the one who started our alumni.
We had our first alumni meeting
Unfortunately, he
in his house
couldn't
in
come.
the 90 Ahmedabad conference.
Yes.
No, but the first alumni meeting was held with Dr. Chandran Abraham and Chief.
And Narsingh Rao is the one who had inaugurated that your meeting. But even between Vijay Hospital and Sankara Nethralaya, one cannot miss the greatest fortune what Badri had is the surgery for Paramacharya, who is also called as Mahaswami in 1974, and whose both Aradhana and Jayanti, maybe in North India they call Jayanti and Punyatithi, is observed here in a very, very nice way. And I would like all the postgraduate students, whenever we announce this, please come and attend. People may be talking in Tamil, Hindi, all languages they talk, but you would know the greatness of the great saint we had in India, if not just in Tamil Nadu. And that is how Sankara Netralaya name has come also.
I'd like to know of two incidences that you recollect that we'd like to know of two incidences that you recollect that changed the course of your life. Of course, Madam must have changed the course of your life, and you would have changed the course of her life. But besides that,
Yes, I think it would have changed if I had not met her.
He is very good at that.
Thank you. Many people tell me that I am dry, humorless.
Had the 45th wedding anniversary on Karunanidhi's birthday.
No, and he shares the birthday of Jayalalitha.
Yeah, Jayalalitha's birthday.
There is a Dr. Srinivasan, N. Srinivasan, who was practicing in Pondibazar. And he, along with Captain Subramaniam of Rainey Hospital in North Madras, had come to the United States just to go around and see the place and see some hospitals. And they came to Mass Eye and Ear Infirmary, and they met me and spent about maybe 2 days. And during the conversation, I asked them as to how things are, because I had not come for 7 years to India, how things are, and whether it would be possible for me to come over to Chennai and start a practice. And they looked at each other and they sort of grinned and they sort of scratched their head. And then, why do you want to come? You stay right here. Anyway, I particularly wanted them to help me in my coming back. And Dr. Srinivasan did a fantastic job. He was working in voluntary health services as ophthalmologist, and so he gave me his place. That's number one. Number two is that he told me what instruments and equipment would you like to have. When you come, you need to have these. And I prepared a list of maybe 15, 16 instruments, included the Carl Zeiss photocoagulator. So I knew that there are not many facilities for photocoagulation in India, and that was the right choice of instrument I had made. And so Dr. Srinivasan came earlier, about 6 to 8 months earlier, and through Mysi Roy, which is a German organization, which helps people get gifts from Germany. So Mysi Roy was given a list of about 15, 16 instruments, which included the Zeiss photocoagulator. And that was one of the instruments which was really needed. We used to have a large number of patients come from all over including Karnataka, Kerala, Pondicherry, etc. And many cases which had been not treated in the early stages were taken care of by me, and so that is how I was able to start the practice in voluntary health services.
He used to make me a chart, name, age, everything about the patient of Eels disease, and he almost concluded Keralites have Eels disease. When we started getting patients from Nepal also, we know it is all the way in this continent.
I wouldn't call that as an incident that changed my life, course of life, but this is a very beautiful, nice incident which took place. That is meeting Dr. Golam Payman. Dr. Payman had come
Amen.
to Chennai, and he had given a talk here, and so he said he was about to go to Madurai. And I said, what are you going to do there? I'm going to give a demonstration of vitrectomy. This was 1974-75. I said, may I also come? So come along, observe what is being done. So the Aravind people were kind enough to allow me to be inside the theatre, observe the surgery being performed, and I could see through the microscope, through the side tube, the entire vitreous cavity well white and clouded. And slowly all this black whiteness was taken away and removed, and I just saw the optic disc, very beautiful, healthy optic disc, just came out of the clouds, I should say. And I was just absolutely thrilled to see that. And then Dr. Payman was discarding this vitrectomy probe, and I said, may I have it? So he said, okay, good, take it. That is how I got the first vitrectomy probe as a throwaway vitrectomy probe brought by me from Madurai to Chennai. I had another dear friend of mine who was Mr. Wilson. I'm sure you might have heard about him. So I told Mr. Wilson, this is how the instrument looks like, this is how they do it, this is the foot pedal, this is the place where the tubes go. And he said, the probe is very easy, I can make it out in no time, and the other one also, it can be done without any difficulty. So the first vitrectomy machine was made by Wilson.
BSc Physics.
And we used to have that drive, the motor, right, inside the operation theatre, and it used to make a hell of a noise.
He also had fish pump.
Just, it never ceases to amaze me how you can create so much out of such simple, small things. I think this is a true example of how small things can, change so much actually. You're looking at your watch?
I remember his happiness because we had a patient by name Sister Gloria, no? He had taken her, he had asked her, and her first vitrectomy was done, and he said, I couldn't believe that you can see after 10 years. That was something.
Also probably you'll remember Dr. Kinney's visit for changing many things here. Dr. M.M. Kinney.
Dr. Mohandas Kinney.
Mohandas. How can you forget him?
No, he's not forgetting. I'm just telling you. No, his visits have changed many things.
ML serials, I'm sure you're very well aware of it, others may not. This is the one which articles which come every week, in a weekly magazine. The last line of the series will be Todarum. Todarum means it will be next week, we'll show it to you what it is. So the next meeting we'll all meet you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief, and thank you, Madam. It's been. Thank you, Chief, and thank you, Madam.
I've been most fortunate, I should say, that I really am very fortunate in having people like you with so much love and affection. And life is really beautiful. I enjoyed every minute of it. Thank you very much indeed. And let me thank Jyoti. Thanks for allowing me to come over here. And Chennai, thank you for getting stuck in the hot seat. Not hot at all.